Hello and welcome back, my beautiful souls. Before we get started with this week's episode, I wanted to let you know about something new we're doing here at the Midlife Purpose Project. I am starting a new series called Insight Seat Dharma Dialogues. And what that's going to be is episodes where I bring listeners onto the show and coach them on something they're struggling with. So maybe that's anxiety, maybe that's finding purpose, maybe it's nervous system regulation, maybe it's finding that spiritual connection, intuition, anything on that spiritual journey you're walking on that you may be struggling with and need some answers around. This is your opportunity to have time with me and get those answers. And you can sign up for these coaching opportunities using the link in my show notes. And your privacy is 100% guaranteed. So you can use just your first name. You can not use your name at all and just come on the show completely anonymously. But it will be just time for you and I to spend together working on a particular topic that you've been struggling with and that you have questions around and you need answers for. And then what's beautiful about this, why I love this, doing this and why I decided to do it was because if you have a question or you are struggling with something, I 100% guarantee you are not the only one. You are not alone in this struggle or with these questions. And by being brave enough and generous enough to share your struggle on the show, you are helping others to understand that they too are not alone and that they might gain some insight just by listening to your story or listening to the coaching that happens during that episode, but also there will be a sense of connection that's built, knowing that they're not alone and knowing that other people are out there feeling the same way as they are. So while it may be a gift to yourself to come on the show and get some of your, questions answered or be helped with, given some direction on where to go next or what next step to take, you will also be giving a gift to all of the listeners. So use the link in my show notes and sign up for that. Okay, now on to this week's episode. Hey, gorgeous souls, and welcome to the Midlife Purpose Project. I'm your host, Katie Farinas, a yoga teacher and soul purpose coach. And just like you, I'm navigating the wild, beautiful, and sometimes messy terrain of midlife. This is the space where we unpack the shifts happening in our bodies, minds, and souls. We're diving deep into the questions that rise up when everything seems to be changing. Think of this as your toolkit for making sense of this powerful phase of life. We'll have honest conversations, belly laughs, maybe a few tears, and a whole lot of growth. We'll hear from experts on topics that matter to you in midlife, and I'll share yogic philosophy that has been helping humans live with more skill and ease for centuries. Because here's the truth. Everything you've been through, every challenge, every joy, every heartbreak has been training you for this. You're not broken, you're not lost, you're stepping into your power. So come on in, embrace the mess, the beauty, and the absolute magic of midlife. Let's journey together. So I am recording this the week after we had some pretty big things happen in the news, in our world. And it was a really heavy week last week. There was just a lot of darkness that was being highlighted. And I was really feeling it. I know that my close friends were really feeling it, family members. And so I decided to do this episode on a quote that I actually saw on Instagram. That is not where the person that I saw it through is not where it was originated. And she didn't know where it came from either. She's another yogini that we have become friends over Instagram. But it's been apparently being used for years in the yoga community, and I had never heard of it. But the quote is, we as yogis, as people who, are on the spiritual path, the spiritual journey, should walk around with honey in the heart and fire in the belly. So, what does this mean? Honey in the heart and fire in the belly. Well, in yoga philosophy, there is the heart chakra, the anahata chakra, which is located in the center of the chest, and it is your seat of compassion, of love, and of connection. So that's what comes out of your heart chakra. So to have honey in the heart is to be emanating those things, emanating love and compassion and connection, and letting it flow through your life, through your relationships with yourself, with others, and with the world around you. Now, the belly is the Manipura chakra, and that's the seat of your inner fire. You may also have heard of it. You heard it called the solar plexus chakra. And that's the seat of our courage, our strength, and our willpower. So to have fire in the belly is to act with clarity and conviction and to step into life with a sense of purpose. So when we put these together and we say we want to have honey in our heart and fire in our belly, we're saying we want to create balance within us. We cannot have fire without honey, because if we have just fire, then we become harsh. And if we have just honey, we become passive. But when we hold both, we have the sweetness in the heart, we have the love and the compassion and the empathy and the connection, along with the strength that comes from that Manipura chakra. So the willpower, the courage, the fire that we need to move through the world and do good work, right? To move forward in our purpose. And so it's an invitation to embody both the softness and the strength, both the gratitude and the determination, both the love and the action. And if you have listened to my show for a while, you'll know that we talk about this duality all the time, how we can feel happy and sad at the same time, angry and joyful, confused and yet knowing. You know, we are not one-dimensional creatures. We can hold the dichotomy, and that is what we're talking about here. And why? Why do we need to do this? How does this relate to what I was talking about earlier with what was happening in the world last week? Well, when we start paying a lot of attention to the negativity that exists in the world, it pulls us off of our center and we start to feel lots of negative emotions, right? We get angry, scared, anxious. We start to feel helpless. We start to feel like there's literally nothing right in the world, right? That all the world is dark and that we're doomed and that we as individuals can't do anything about it. We're helpless to do anything about it. And then the overwhelm creeps in and we stop being able to see the light that exists in the world. So what do we do about that, right? What do we do when we find ourselves really focusing so much of our attention on the darkness that exists? How do we deal with that? How do we not let it overwhelm us and make us angry and jaded? And how do we stop ourselves from putting up walls around our heart? Because that's often what happens, right? Have you ever found yourself feeling just sarcastic or disconnected, not feeling anything at all, right? You put this wall up so you can't feel the hurt that comes with being the witness to all that is happening in the world. But this wall also prevents you from feeling the goodness that exists, right? So how do we stop that wall from forming? Or if the wall already exists, how do we break it down? How do we take that heart wall away? And how do we live out our universal dharma? So if there's a couple episodes ago, I talked about universal dharma, and I will link that in the show notes. But we have our individual dharma, our sva dharma. That's what we talk about a lot on this show. But we all have a universal dharma. And that is to be embodiments of God's light and love, right? So we are light and love. That is what we are. Often the world prevents us from embodying that, or the experiences we have that shape us and put up these walls and give us the limiting beliefs and, place fear in our hearts and minds. They cover up what we truly are, which is light and love, right? So, how do we live out our universal dharma of being light and love while also working towards change in the world? Right. So that's again, honey in the heart, fire in the belly, right? We are light and love, and we should be embodiments of that in everything we do. We should be making our lives a blessing to the world. But how do we do that while also having this fire in the belly? This is a great question. And it is one that I think we need to dive into today, which is why I decided to do this episode. So the answer is probably something you have heard before, and it can sound a little cliche, but the answer is gratitude. So when you're practicing gratitude, you're practicing what we call in yoga pratipaksha bhavana, which is intentionally replacing negativity with a conscious positive focus, right? So we are consciously becoming aware that, oh, our field of awareness is locked in on negativity. And then we are consciously choosing to pan the camera of our awareness, pan the focus of our awareness to positivity. We're essentially changing the station in our minds. So if we would think about our minds as a radio, and we talked about this before, and we talked about abundance and how we have this radio station and we can change it to whatever we want, right? It just requires awareness and then a decision on our part, and then a return to the practice over and over, right? Because sometimes the station drifts and we don't even realize we've drifted off of the station that we want to be on, right? So we have the awareness, then we change the station intentionally, and then we keep coming back to the awareness. We use practices to keep coming back to the awareness so we can see what station we're on, and we can change the station again. We can adjust the dial if we need to. And so this is the same idea, right? We're changing the station from one of negativity to one of positivity, from one of fear to one of gratitude. And it is in that change that we shift the mind towards clarity and steadiness, and we become the energy of light and love. So think about the things in your life that have gone right just today, maybe just in this past hour, or just in the moment that you're in right now. So you woke up this morning and your heart was beating and your breath was flowing through your body. Maybe you ate a good breakfast, or maybe you felt the warmth of a hot mug in your hands when you drank coffee or tea. Maybe you went outside and smelled the fresh air. Maybe someone did something kind for you today, a small act of kindness. In this moment, you're listening to this podcast and hopefully you're feeling inspired. You're feeling like you understand how to wrap your mind around what's happening in the world just a little bit better. We take for granted so many things that are clear evidence of God's love that surrounds us at all times. Laughter, a hug from a friend or a loved one, a sense of home, right? That sense of being home, a cozy blanket, maybe the sound of wind rustling in the leaves, our adorable pets. I love my dog Hunter. If you're on my Instagram, you'll see many photos of him and all the funny things that he does and just the cuteness that he is and the joy that he exudes. Maybe you have a teacher, a mentor, a book, or a podcast that has inspired you or made you feel connected or seen. Maybe you have work that feels really purposeful to you and where you feel like you're making a difference. Great music and art is another thing that we forget to be thankful for on a regular basis. I am a huge music lover. And in a moment, in the matter of a minute and 30-second song, my energy, my vibration, my mood can completely shift just by listening to that song, 90 seconds, right? How often do we remember to be grateful? Grateful for hands that work and allow us to do the things that we love to do, for the pleasure of all the senses, our five senses, for our minds and everything that our minds are capable of, and for life itself and the ability to be curious, to hope, and to act. Every year, my kids and I do this little ritual that I started when they were young, where we use colored paper, and the paper is colored the colors of the fall landscape, the autumn landscape, so oranges and burnt reds and yellows and browns. And we use this construction paper, and I have a hole punched in the shape of a maple leaf, and we punch out a bunch of these leaves. And for the entire month of November, every day we fill out 3 to 5 leaves, each one of us, of stuff that we are grateful for. And sometimes it's things that we're grateful for that day, and some things it's just in general that we're grateful for. But by the end of the month, by the time we reach Thanksgiving, the dining room table is just full of these leaves, and they're all different. We don't replicate the leaves, so we make sure that each one is its own individual thing to be grateful for. And it is just full, covered. You can't even see the table underneath of it because it is so full of these leaves that we have created, these little gems of gratitude that we have reminded ourselves of over the course of November. And we all feel good after it because gratitude doesn't have to wait for something extraordinary. It's often about noticing the ordinary with fresh eyes, right? The things that we take for granted all the time. And when we actively engage in this gratitude, we are not trying to spiritually bypass. I want to make that clear, right? This isn't about pretending that there aren't real problems in the world that need attention, that need solutions. But what we are doing is seeing the truth. Because when we look at the world and only see the darkness, we are only seeing one part of a two-part equation. Because life is both darkness and light, right? There is no one without the other. So yes, there is a lot that needs changing in this world, but there is also a tremendous amount that is right in this world. And what we focus on expands. So we have to ask ourselves, not only do what we focus on expands, what we focus on, we become. So do we want to expand the darkness and become the darkness and put those walls up around us? Or do we want to multiply the light and embody the light and love that we are and remove all the barriers to being that light and love? When we forget to recognize and be grateful for what is good, we're disengaging in the fullness of life. Because life is the light and it is the darkness. It is both. And we are also energetic beings. We talk about this too, right? We are beings of energy. That's what we are, right? We're encased in this body, But that's our bodies are not who we are, and our minds are not who we are. It is our soul. That is who we are, and our souls are energetic beings. And we know this, right? You can see this in someone's eyes when they're really happy or excited. They literally sparkle. You can start to see the light. And we can also feel it, right? When you encounter a person who is lit up and high vibration, it just feels good to be in their orbit, in their energy, versus when you are around someone who is really negative and dark and it's draining. You actually walk away feeling physically exhausted just from being in their presence, right? So you can be in someone's presence and they can uplift you or they can drain you, right? So let's be uplifters. Let's be the light in the world. And it's actually our duty. So dharma, the word dharma can be translated in many different ways, but one of the translations is sacred duty. And that sacred duty is, there are many ways that we engage in sacred duty. One of those, as I mentioned, is our sva dharma. That's our sacred duty to self, right? To fulfill our purpose. But we have many other duties in the world. And one of those is to be light and love, right? To manage our energy, to manage our vibration, because it doesn't only impact us as individuals, it impacts those close to you and the world. It ripples outward, right? Our energy, our vibration ripples outward. So you have a sacred duty to yourself and those you love and the world at large to raise your vibration, to steady yourself on the inside, to remove the barriers of being light and love, and then embody that light and love for all people. And I do mean all people, even those that we strongly disagree with, even those who have done egregious things, because they are still part of the divine. And it doesn't excuse their behavior. It doesn't make it okay. It doesn't mean that there should not be repercussions. It means just recognizing that we are all one and we can still have the honey in the heart, but fire in the belly. I once asked a therapist, how do you continue to be loving while taking a stand on something or setting boundaries where they're needed? And I thought her response was brilliant. So I'm sharing it with you today. And she said, if you are doing those things, right, whether it be taking a stand, fighting for a cause, setting a boundary, choosing to focus on gratitude, even when you know there are really challenging things happening in the world. If you are doing those things with the intention to stay in alignment with who you are and what you believe, and not to hurt anyone else, then you are acting from a place of love, compassion, and unity, even if the other person can't see it. And it was really helpful for me because I think that when we're spiritual seekers, when we're on a spiritual path, we want to be kind, we want to be loving, compassionate, generous. We know about this heart center that we kind of intuitively move from, but we forget about the fire in the belly. We think to be spiritual means to always be in equanimity. Well, it is to be in equanimity, but then to not act, right? Equanimity does not mean that we don't act. It means that we keep our energetic vibration elevated. We are unattached from what is happening, but not being attached doesn't mean not doing anything about it, right? It just means we don't get so wrapped up and entangled in it that we can't see clearly. We can't see what we are here to do and how we are here to do it. It is that detachment that allows us to move forward with clarity. And if you're a parent, you might be able to to think about this concept in that way. It was one of the first things that came to my mind when I thought about this concept of heart, fire in the belly and honey in the heart, or when the therapist answered that question. Because there have been many times where I've had to discipline my children. I've had to have serious talks with them about things. I've had to say no, even when I knew that was really challenging for them. And these are hard things because they were disappointed, they were angry, they were upset. They were suffering in some way. And of course, I love them and I don't want them to suffer, right? So I have that honey in my heart. I have that compassion and love for them. Um, but I did it anyway, right? I did it anyway. I took away the thing. Gave the punishment. I said no, because I knew I was acting in alignment with my role as a parent and what I valued and believed was in their best interest. So here's a great example and a pretty extreme one from my parenting journey. My daughter went through some really challenging times with her mental health. And she had really severe anxiety, depression, and OCD. And it was really hard. And along with that, I'm sorry, I don't want to forget to mention chronic migraine. And so we went through many years where she was debilitated by her anxiety. And she had social anxiety, she had generalized anxiety. And so she was dealing with debilitation from the anxiety, from the OCD, and from the pain disorder, the chronic migraine. And she wouldn't want to go to school, or she would go to school and then she'd want to come home, or she wouldn't want to go to therapy. Whatever the case may be, there were many, many things that she just didn't want to do because of how she was suffering. And as her mom, I had so much compassion for her and so much love for her. And there was a part of me that wanted to say, okay, I'll come pick you up from school. Or, okay, you don't have to go. Or, yeah, you can spend all day not coming out of your room. You can just stay in your room all day long. Or you have to do something called exposure therapy when you have OCD and anxiety, where basically the thing you're afraid of, you have to do, right? That's basically an exposure in a nutshell. I'm simplifying it, but whatever it is that you fear, that's the thing you have to do, and you have to do it over and over. And she feared everything. I used to say to my husband, she's fearful of life, like all of life. But I still made her do the exposures even though my heart had this love and compassion for her, and there was a part of me that wanted to say, no, you don't have to do the exposure. The fire in my belly, and combined with the love for her, right? The love I had for her and the fire in my belly, that I knew that this was the best thing for her. I knew that she was sick, and in order to be well, this is what she needed to do. I needed to say, no, I'm not picking you up from school. Yes, you do have to do that exposure. Yes, you do have to go to school. No, you cannot stay in your room more than 1 hour a day, right? I had to make these really hard decisions and choices using that determination, that willpower, that courage, right? Because all along, it was very scary. She was going through a really scary time. I had to summon my courage and my will and my grit. And I had to combine that with my love for her to do what needed to be done to help her to get well. And it did help her to get well. And she is well. And I know that she wouldn't be where she is right now had I not used the fire in my belly and made decisions and set boundaries that she absolutely hated, but I knew were in her best interest. So I'm just giving you that example as a way of understanding what this looks like, what this honey in the heart and fire in the belly looks like, what having gratitude while also still recognizing that change needs to be made, right? There is no one without the other. It's yes and, always yes and. So here's another part to remember. You don't have to have fire in your belly for every problem that exists on the planet, okay? You were never meant to solve every problem, and we've talked about this before in other episodes. You have a dharma, you have a dharma, you have a sacred duty to yourself, to your soul, and to this lifetime that you're living. And that is where you direct your fire. That is how we change the world. People who are grounded, centered, loving, compassionate, and fired up about their role in the tapestry of humanity. Right? So I don't want you thinking I have to have fire in my belly to solve all of the world's problems. You do not. You need to ground and center yourself. And that's where the gratitude practice comes in. Recognize all the love that you swim in every single day. Have gratitude for it. And then get clarity on what your role is here, what your role on this planet is in this lifetime at this time to make your life a blessing, to make your life impactful. So, again, I'll use myself as an example. I cannot fix all the world's problems, but I can show up every week on this podcast and through my newsletter and my blog posts as your coach and spiritual teacher. I can help hopefully center you and help you to come home to yourself. I can expand your awareness and help you see a greater possibility for your life and for the world. One that's rooted in dharma, one that allows you to move forward with honey in the heart and fire in the belly. And that's my part. Because maybe you listen to one of my podcasts, or you read something I've written, or you sign up for coaching with me, and then you decide to start a regular gratitude practice, which allows you to be more open, loving, and present in your life. Or you become an active member in a group moving a cause forward, right? Whatever cause speaks to your heart, you get the courage to start acting on that. Maybe you start mentoring or supporting someone who really needs it, and you use all of the knowledge and the wisdom and the skills that you've gained throughout your life to help someone on their journey. Maybe you realign your time and energy and money towards what you really value. Things that, again, make the world a better place. Maybe with all this gratitude, this honey in your heart, you start intentionally spreading kindness like pixie dust throughout your day, right? You just have a little pouch of pixie dust, kindness pixie dust, and you just start throwing it everywhere you go, right? How much impact would that make in the world? Maybe you use that fire in your heart and fire in your belly and honey in your heart to set boundaries where they're needed. Boundaries for yourself, for your children, at your work, with your partner, right? Maybe you listen generously to someone who needs your presence, right? Our presence, I once heard someone say, I don't know where this came from, but your presence is a present, right? It is a gift that we can give to anyone at any time, right? But first, we have to be rooted and grounded. Maybe you finally speak your truth from a place of honesty and alignment. Maybe you express your thanks out loud. How amazing would it be to just send an email, a text message, a voice message, a phone call, saying thank you to people who have made a difference in your life? There are an endless number of ways that light could be spread in this world: kindness, love, compassion, justice, just by someone listening to this podcast and understanding this concept of honey in the heart and fire in the belly, and using gratitude to prevent us from our hearts being blocked, right? And when gratitude sweetens the heart and courage fills the belly, we become change makers who uplift others and move the world to a kinder and more just place. So start with gratitude. Find honey in the heart, cultivate it, right? This requires cultivation. It requires intentionality. And recognize how we are all interconnected, how much we are swimming in this sea of love and well-being. Tap into that wellness that envelops us. And then from that place, listen to how and where you are meant to use your gifts of courage, strength, and willpower for positive change in the world, to be a light maker. I happen to love a morning practice. I sent a newsletter out about this probably a couple of weeks ago. I think morning practices are really transformational, and they can look like a lot of different things. But one practice that has really changed my life in the morning, outside of my morning meditation, which I also highly recommend, is to wake up and before you do anything, before you even open your eyes, right? Before you say hello to your partner, if you have a partner, or pick up your phone, or, sit up in bed, before you do anything, while you are still laying there, eyes closed, placing a hand on your heart and saying one simple prayer. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this life. Thank you for this body. Thank you for another opportunity to live with purpose and meaning, to make change, to be curious, to learn, to grow. Thank you for another opportunity to love, to be of service. You can say thank you for whatever you want, whatever is coming to you in that moment when you wake up. But I promise you, if you wake up and just say thank you and really, really think about what it is you're saying thank you for, it will change that whole day. And then the next day, if you do it again and again and again, you will change your life and you will change it for the better. And you will become a light maker. You will become a change maker. And you will gain so much clarity about what your role here is, how you're supposed to show up with honey in the heart and fire in the belly, what that looks like for you, right? Not for me, not for your partner, not for your friend, not for the random person on social media, how you are supposed to show up with honey in the heart and fire in the belly. I hope that this made sense. I hope that you can start this morning gratitude practice and see how it changes just your day, right? Start with just your day. Just do it once and see how you feel throughout the day and if it changes how you feel. And in moments where you're getting upset, frustrated, angry, overwhelmed, whether it be by anything that happens throughout your day or because you hear something that's happening in the world that's really upsetting, remember to come back to the gratitude. Remember to look for the good. Remember that life is both lightness and darkness. It is not one or the other. It is both. And it is a disservice to ourselves and to the world to only focus on one part of the totality of life. Any questions, comments, feedback, anything, I always love to hear from you guys. So you can email me at katie@katiefreinas.com. You can message me on Instagram or on Substack. I'm on Substack. Any ways of getting in touch with me, I am here and open and willing to listen. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear if this resonated with you. And if you do decide to start this simple gratitude practice in the morning, how you felt like it changed your day, your week, your month. And also, I wanted to let you know that I have a new masterclass. It's free. It's 5 steps to discovering your dharma, and I will put the link in the show notes. So it is a video masterclass. So when you sign up, the video will get sent to you, and I am walking you through 5 steps that can help you uncover your specific soul's purpose, your sva dharma. Remembering that your purpose and my purpose are the same, to be embodiments of light and love and to spread that light and love everywhere we go. We just do it in different ways, and that is part of the beauty and magic of this life. All right, I love you, my friends. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, for showing up week after week. I am filled with gratitude for you, the listeners who make this show possible and allow me to fulfill my dharma. I can't tell you how much it means to me. Namaste, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery here at the Midlife Purpose Project. I hope today's conversation sparked something deep inside of you, made you laugh, or reminded you that you are never alone. Remember, it's never too late to reconnect with your soul's purpose and live a life of meaning. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the show, or share it with someone who could use a little inspiration. It really helps the show reach more women and helps me keep the content ad-free. Join me next time as we continue to explore what it means to live with purpose in midlife.